What is up, Bears fans? Welcome to the Chicago Bears Huddle. This is your UK take on all things Chicago Bears as we seek to build a community across the pond. I'm Owen James, and this is your morning news update. Right, we're going to obviously look at, we are careering towards Monday Night Football, the rematch. Time for battle, time to go back to the capital, time to get revenge for the Fail Mary, time to get the Commanders. It's going to be a tough game. Let's make no bones about this. This is not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. It will be tough. It will be battled. Dan Quinn's Commanders are a very good football team, as Coach Ben Johnson said himself. They can hurt you and hit you in so many different ways offensively. They've got the best running attack in the NFL. They've got a very good passing attack. They've got Jaden Daniels. The defense certainly does not carry any mugs either. You've got obviously Bobby Wagner, you've got Von Miller, you've got some big talent in that Commanders team. They are 3-2 at this present moment in time, only second in their division because they're in the same division as the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 4-1 this season. They are coming off the back of a victory, a 27-10 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. Even a fantastic performance by them, both defensively and offensively in that game. 389 total yards, 226 passing yards, 163 rushing yards, and averaging 7.1 yards per play. Jaden Daniels was back for the Commanders, 15 of 26, 231 yards and a TD. Their running attack was effective. Jackery Krosky-Merritt, 14 carries for 111 yards, averaging 7.9 yards per carry, 2 TDs. What we would give for that sort of rushing production in Chicago. I mean, come on. Jaden Daniels, 8 of 39. Rushing, receiving as well. Some quality receiving talent there. Deebo Samuel, obviously top amongst them. Luke McCaffrey, Jacory Krosky-Merritt, obviously out of the backfield. Jalen Lane, Jeremy McNichols. There's talent. There is talent in that team. Offensively, a lot of talent, a lot of ways they can hurt you. You know, Bobby Wagner leading the way with assists and tackles as well. Mike St. Cyril, Quan Martin, Jeremy Reeves, Javon Kinlaw, another very, very talented player, Von Miller. There's talent. Trey Amos, there's a lot of talent in that Washington Commanders lineup. But look, you know, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your ass and say that the Bears are going to go there and win easily. The Bears are, you know, coming off the bye and going to be firing. Yes, we are obviously coming off the back of 2 straight wins against, yes, poor teams. The Cowboys and the Raiders ain't great teams, are they, guys? That's one thing we need to keep in perspective here. The Bears enter a part of their schedule where, realistically, this part of the schedule, we could stack a few wins here. We could obviously build some momentum going forward, building off those 2 wins we've just come off, building off, of course, the fact we've just had a bye. Now, the Bears don't historically have a great record coming off the bye, having only won 2 of our last 14 games coming out of the bye. It has not been particularly great so far. We're 2-2. We sit bottom of our division again. That's just what it is. But we've got the Commanders, obviously, on Monday night. We then play the Saints, who ain't great. The Ravens, who are struggling. The Bengals, who've got Joe Flacco as their quarterback. The Giants, who are poor. Before the another interdivisional game against the Vikings. So, look, even if you disregard the Commanders game for a minute, there's a chance to stack at least 4 victories in that run. A result against the Commanders, a dream scenario would be to go into that Vikings game at 7-2. Is it realistic? Who knows? Ben Johnson has been talking in his presser very much, about the fact that he is happy with Caleb Williams. He's happy with the way that Caleb is progressing, the way that Caleb is developing. He also spoke very interestingly as well in his press availability regarding, the comparison that often gets drawn between Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Some Bears fans saying that they'd rather we pick Jaden Daniels. But Caleb and Jaden, I think, are, as Ben Johnson said, from what he did, his scouting work that he did, 2 ascending quarterbacks who we will be talking about for a very, very long time in this sport. Both have their skills. Both have their talents. Yes, Jaden is a little bit more mobile and a little bit more of a running quarterback, a bit more like Lamar Jackson-esque in the way that he plays the game. But, certainly Caleb has his strengths. Caleb has done exceptionally well in this second season. I think you've got to kind of realise that, that Caleb is in effect relearning. He's starting again after, a rookie season where he wasn't a disaster. Don't get me wrong, the guy wasn't a disaster. He certainly had to suffer the Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron, poor offensive line. Whereas this year, the O-line ain't great, but it's better. Ben Johnson is a much better head coach. Declan Doyle is a much better offensive coordinator. Things are developing. Things are getting better. Ben Johnson on Caleb Williams says, when you turn on the tape, I see him playing the game with his feet more. You see him getting better each week. And, his stats are good. Even after that first season where he struggled to some degree, through his first 21 games, Caleb has 28 touchdowns and just 8 interceptions, the best start to a career by a number 1 pick in NFL history. Yet his haters will tell you that he is a very poor player, that he is not good enough. I think, the last few weeks have started to kind of show you that is a false narrative around Caleb. There is a very false narrative around Caleb. Now, in terms of on the Washington Commanders, Ben Johnson said this. He said, man, you need to play complementary football to beat this team. This is a really good football team. I think Dan Quinn is an outstanding coach. His guys play hard. They play inspired football. There is a lot of similarities between what we faced a couple of weeks ago with the Raiders and Pete Carroll-led team and a Dan Quinn-led team. Yes, the Commanders are a lot better. But I think he means in terms of the all-round threat they can provide. The running attack is massive, huge. That rushing attack is one of the big concerns for me going into this game. And Dennis Allen is going to have to kind of find ways to scheme, ways to stop that rushing attack, to stop them gashing us on the ground. As I said on the video the other day, our rush defense is not good. It is one of the worst in the NFL. I think it's 24th out of 32 in the NFL. It ain't great. I mean, certainly I think what has not helped through the first 4 weeks of this season is the fact that we've been missing some key players like Kyler Gordon, who will massively help the rush defense. TJ Edwards will massively help the rush defense. Hopefully, Austin Booker being back will also help the rush defense. Hopefully, with him being back, I mean, obviously, rather than him actually helping, I think he will help. These key players been out, I think, have kind of really genuinely hurt the defense. I mean, another thing that's hurt the defense, I think, also is the lack of sacks. We have I think it's just 5-6 sacks so far this season. We're one of the lowest, I think the lowest in the NFL. Montez Sweat not getting it done. Diarra Yingbo not getting it done. I mean, Montez seems to be picking up in the last couple of games, and hopefully, Austin Booker being back can provide that pass rush. But, DA is going to have a lot of work to do this week in terms of making sure that going into Monday Night Football, he's got those schemes, he's got those clever ways to kind of stuff the run, to stop them from actually, running us to death with the ball. That is a big part of what we're going to have to see on Monday night, and DA is going to be a big part of that. Ben Johnson, obviously, as well, was questioned around this man, Rome Odunze. He talked about Rome being a leader on this team, being one of the main guys. Now, there's been a bit of controversy, hasn't there, regarding the receivers. Apparently, DJ Moore is not happy about his lack of work, his lack of receptions, his lack of targets. Rome Odunze getting a lot more targets. But I think the thing you can say about that, DJ, is that Rome is proving himself to be a very effective wide receiver. Him and Caleb are developing a really good understanding. Caleb seems to really see Rome as a go-to guy. Rome does seem to be becoming that real elite level guy. And I think Rome will go on to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. This guy certainly has the talent and the ability and the route running ability to do that. So for me, Rome is a leader. Now, DJ Moore, the whole DJ Moore question will rumble on, I think. And, there's a possibility that we do have to trade DJ away, especially if he's not settled, if he's not happy. You can't have that sort of person in your dressing room or on your roster. It could cause upset. Certainly not what the Bears need going forward. But look, yes, offensively, it is getting better. It's not perfect. As Coach Johnson himself said, we do make mistakes. We do shoot ourselves in the foot. We do have those pre-snap penalties. Yes, the O-line does need to improve. Now, let's address a few of those things. The penalties, I think, will come with discipline, and the coaches, no doubt, will have been working on that with the players through this bye week. In terms of the offensive line, changes, I think, are afoot on that offensive line. It seems to me that Darnell Wright, who was not seen at practice the other day, there is no formal injury report until later this week, that Darnell was out. So it does seem, I think, that Ozzie Trapillo may well continue at right tackle. If Ozzie Trapillo does continue at right tackle, I think this is a good thing. Ozzy did really well against Max Crosby, one of the best edge rushers, one of the best ends in the NFL. This is a guy who in the first half absolutely mashed up Darnell Wright, mashed that Bears offensive line. Ozzy comes in and it improves substantially in that second half. So, Ozzy's got confidence coming off that. I mean, Ozzy should be through the roof, having dealt with Max Crosby going into this Commanders game on Monday night. So, that's one thing. Now, Braxton Jones quite clearly has been benched for poor play. Yes, he was good against the Cowboys, but awful again against the Raiders, awful against the Lions, awful against the Vikings. It seems that Theo Bernadette is going to be the left tackle. Now, when questioned on this, Ben Johnson said that we know who our left tackle is going to be, but left it very much at that. I would say, if you're a betting guy, get your money on Theo Bernadette to be the starting left tackle for the Bears on Monday night against the Commanders. I honestly think that the starting offensive line come Monday night will be Theo Bernadette left tackle, Joe Thuney, who's been the best offensive lineman for the Bears at left guard, Drew Dahlman at centre. He needs to up his game. Jonah Jackson, interesting debate on him, and I think it'll be Ozzy Trapillo at right tackle. I did see another very interesting stat on old Jonah Jackson on X. It was put out by just another Chicago podcast, and I didn't realize this because a lot of the kind of narrative around Jonah Jackson is that Jonah is struggling, that Jonah is not good, that Jonah is a very poor player this season and is not doing well. This is from this season. This is his stats from this season. 0 sacks allowed, 0 hits allowed, 4 penalties, 2 of those came in week 1, 8 pressures, 5 of those came in week 1. So since week 1, he's allowed only 3 pressures and only conceded 2 penalties. Take away week 1, he's one of the better guards in the NFL. So is Jonah struggling as much as people believe he is? Or is it that they've kind of had their opinion cast by what he did in week 1? To me, Jonah is not struggling, I don't think. Jonah is developing. I think Dan Rauschau is clearly having a very good influence on him. And I think we have to keep our faith in Jonah and what he can do, that he can get back that guard that he used to be, which I think, he is an exceptionally talented player. But that really did actually make me sit up this morning when I was scrolling through X, the Just Another Year Chicago podcast, and see that stat. Maybe it's even, as some have suggested, just being used as a bit of false narrative in terms of the anti-Jonah Jackson crowd as another poll to try and beat Nick Poles with, if you forgive the Poles pun. But yeah, look, the offensive line, look, don't get me wrong, has to step up. It has to open the running attack up. It has to improve the running attack. I mean, geez, man, if we had a half decent running attack, how much would we improve? How many games could we win? How much of a contender in terms of the playoffs would be beat? Not to win the Super Bowl, guys. Don't get me out of context on this one. Ben Johnson was asked about the running game. He said he had faith in the guys. He had faith in what they were doing. And he said there was things we need to work on offensive line-wise, things we need to work off in terms of play calling. He's still got faith in it. He is going to say that. He's not going to come out and say it's a disaster, it's all falling apart. That's just not what a head coach does. But the in terms of the offense, the running side of it is the weak side of this game, is the thing we do need to work on. As I said on the video yesterday, I think Kyle Manungai needs to be more of the guy. He needs to get more ball. He needs to use the ball, and we need to use Kyle a lot more. He can get the hard yards up the middle. People talk, and I heard, I think it was Hayes on my favourite Chicago Bears podcast, Chicago Bears Central, talk about the fact that people say, well, why don't we just run DeAndre Swift out wide all the time? Well, the moment you bounce him out wide, as Hayes said, defense makes it easy to defend against him because they think, oh, Swift's in, they're either going to pass or run out wide. It makes your offense easy to predict. You don't do that. So DeAndre is going to have to try and run those hard yards at the middle, something he doesn't do. So get Kyle Manungai in there to do that. Look, guys, the offense is moving in the right direction. It is trending in the right direction. Defensively, we have not been great first few weeks. I mean, yes, there's been some standout plays, the 4 takeaways, in terms of that was great. There's been some, standout plays, the Tyreek Stevenson strip on the Cowboys running back, the interceptions. There's been some great bits and pieces there. But overall, I think there's elements that the defense does need to work on and improve. It needs to get more pressure to the quarterback. It needs to put the quarterback under more pressure. It needs to really push push the opposition quarterbacks and not give them a moment's peace. You know, for me, one of the big things there is the pass rush needs to vastly improve. You know, Montez Sweat needs to start to living up to some of that contract. Now, he came out the other day and talked about how, you know, the whole Washington Commanders situation, the situation around him and the Commanders hurt him. Guys, use it as fuel, man. Use it as fuel. Get after Jaden Daniels on Monday night. And I think if we're going to stop Jaden Daniels, you know, Dio, Austin, the interior defensive line, whether that's Billings, whether that's Shamar Turner, Gervon Dexter, are going to have to get after and get in Jaden Daniels' face. It's a big thing that they're going to have to work on. I'm really genuinely hoping that Dennis Allen has come up with some schemes, some ideas, some ways of working around the issues we have had on that defensive side of the ball. I mean, certainly, I think the returning players are going to massively help him. Kyler Gordon, I think, is going to be a huge part of that and a huge part of helping the defense to move forward, you know, and what he can bring. Playing outside corner, playing slot, playing nickel, playing safety, coming into the box to help with the pass rush, the rush blitz, etc., etc. Those things are things that Kyler can help. TJ Edwards being back is going to be massive as well. You know, look, things are trending in a positive direction. If the Bears can put together a complete game in terms of the defense and these players pushing back in and the offense developing in the ways that it's continued to developing, and, you know, this man here really taking it on to the next level. You know, he is moving forward. He is making progress. His passing play is getting better. His arm is looking better. His understanding, his reading, his reads, his progressions are looking better. You know, this is an offense that can really move forward and hurt people. We are one of the better offenses anyway in the NFL in terms of points scored. Passing yards, again, good. It's the running game that isn't great. But Caleb, I think, has had a great season so far. And you can sit, and the haters won't recognise that. Caleb could pass for 4,000 yards this season, throw 30 TD passes and 10 interceptions. And the haters will still find some way to beat him and say Tyson should be starting. The Bajan baddies will still want Bajan as the QB1, no matter what Caleb Williams does. Caleb Williams could win 5 successive Super Bowls, and the Bajan baddies would still be calling for him to start over Caleb. I honestly believe there are some out there that just can never see good in Caleb, no matter what he does and what he achieves. Another obviously positive seems to be that Colston Loveland is returning to the Bears and obviously is practicing. Look, Colston is probably one of the best route runners on the team, even though he's a rookie, and we really do need to get him more into the game. We saw with that one reception for over 30 yards the other day before he went off injured against the Cowboys, what an impact he can have. You know, Cole was pretty shocking in the last game. You know, Colston Loveland, I think, does need to be a big part of what the Bears do on Monday night. And look, Ben Johnson's shown in his time at Detroit, he wants to use tight ends. He trusts tight ends. He's a lot of 12 personnel. For me, Colston Loveland being back again will be another big lift for the Bears on Monday night. And we need to use him more and get him involved more in the passing attack. This offense has limitless possibilities, guys. It really does with the talent we've got. Roman Odunze, Olamide Zacchaeus, Luther Burden, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland. There's talent there to use. It needs to be used effectively, and I'm sure with Ben Johnson's know-how, that can be done. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts going into the game on Monday night. We'll do a big proper preview of it, obviously, before the game. Thank you for watching the Chicago Bears Huddle Pod. As always, guys, if you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. This is your UK take on all things Chicago Bears. Bear down.